Devil May Cry is a series of games that I have a ridiculous amount of attachment to, despite the fact that I've only been a fan for a little less than a year. Back in September of 2024, I saw that the entire series was on sale on Xbox, so I ended up buying the HD Collection, DMC4 Special Edition, and DMC5 all at once. It wasn't long into my first playthrough of Devil May Cry 3, the first Vergil fight to be specific, where I was truly sucked into the series, and it very quickly became one of my favorite video game franchises of all time. I think Devil May Cry 3 is one of the most special and unique games of all time. There's simply nothing else in the world that can capture its style, story, character writing, and overall feel. And this is coming from someone whose favorite game in the series is DMC5. So you can only imagine how excited I was when I found out there was a new DMC anime coming out that followed a young Dante and Lady, much like DMC3. April 3rd eventually rolled around and I binge watched all 8 episodes in one sitting. Now, I can't deny that I was fresh off the hype of the anime and that my anticipation clouded my initial judgment. My first impressions of the anime were overall positive, and then I replayed some of Devil May Cry 3 and realized I needed to reevaluate my own opinion because the Netflix Devil May Cry anime not only sorely lacks the soul of its source material, but it also misunderstands and disrespects its main characters on such a fundamental level and turns them into unrecognizable hollow shells of their video game counterparts. I'm going to start with Vergil first because he has the least screen time out of the 3, but that doesn't mean that I have the least to say about him. I've seen people say that the anime feels like it was written by someone who only played DMC5. But Vergil feels like he was written by someone who saw the motivated combo on Reddit, listened to Bury the Light a few times, and then speed read his wiki page. There legitimately isn't a single redeeming factor for anime Vergil. Not one. And I doubt there will be one in season 2, because he's just set up entirely wrong here. Having Vergil willingly work for Mundus is absolutely insane. Mundus tortured Vergil and turned him into a slave for years. Vergil in the games is a selfish character, driven by his obsession with power in order to protect himself so nothing like what happened to him in the past ever happens again. He would never in a million years work for Mundus, nor would he ever pretend to in order to get close and kill him before anyone tries to say that's his angle here. Vergil would simply just try to kill Mundus. And I know that for a fact because it is literally the last thing we see him do in Devil May Cry 3.
It'll be fun to fight with the Prince of Darkness. If my father did it, I should be able to do it too.
At one point, it's shown that Vergil just willingly gives up half of his amulet to the rabbit, despite...
No one can have this, Dante. It's mine. It belongs to a son of Sparta.
It even makes less sense when you realize that despite not being in control of himself, Vergil still kept the amulet when he was Michelangelo. But I guess the rabbit can just have it. There's also the fact that his now terribly designed Michelangelo form is just his devil trigger for some reason. He and Dante should have similar transformations considering the fact that they're twins, but making him Michelangelo of all things is so incredibly disrespectful to the character of Vergil that it honestly blows my mind. The last thing I want to talk about regarding anime Vergil is something that I didn't even think about until I watched this video by RB6097, it'll be linked in the description, and it's about the use of Bury the Light as Vergil's theme in the anime. Bury the Light was written to represent Vergil in DMC5 at the tail end of his character arc. It's a reflection of his life up to that point and only fits DMC5 Vergil. it wouldn't fit DMC3 Vergil, and it certainly doesn't fit this rendition of the character. Its use here really does give "I experienced the game through Reddit clips" vibes, and I hate it. And there's also the stupid "there's a storm approaching and I'm that storm" line. At the very least, have someone who isn't Vergil say it, but it would still be corny because it's a direct reference to the song. Honestly, all that's missing from that scene is a fedora and it would have been perfect. In the case of Dante, well, to me, he feels like a really bad version of DMC4 Nero, which means he feels like a terrible version of any mainline Dante. And it's not just because of the voice. While I do think it is dumb to have Johnny Young Bosch voice Dante when he already voices another extremely prevalent character within Devil May Cry, his performance is good enough for me to ignore it altogether. The very clear inspiration for anime Dante is DMC3 Dante, from the immaturity and lack of experience to his design, but anime Dante is incompetent beyond the point of belief. DMC3 Dante is the least experienced we see the character, but he's still putting belt to ass no matter what the situation is, with the sole exceptions of Beowulf and Vergil. Dante is not only supposed to enjoy tearing through his enemies, but do it with a level of finesse and style that it looks almost effortless. And there's only a single fight scene in this entire 8-episode show that portrays this aspect of Dante accurately. In every other action scene, Dante is consistently getting thrashed, not only by demons, but also by Mary, which I will talk about more later. The biggest problem I have with anime Dante is his personality. It feels like a poor imitation of DMC3 Dante. Even at his most inexperienced, Dante was beaming with confidence to the point where it bordered on cockiness. But he's still playful enough while he's taunting his enemies to the point where he's not just an asshole. Anime Dante is the exact opposite of that. He seems unconfident in almost everything he says. That, on top of the fact that he's nerfed all the way to hell, just makes him feel like a character that doesn't belong in Devil May Cry as a whole. Anime Dante also not knowing anything about Sparta is a big red flag as well. Sparta is an actual living legend within the world of Devil May Cry. Hell, there were entire religions formed around the guy, so having his own son know nothing about him while everybody else does just doesn't feel right. One of Dante's most defining character traits, besides the whole wacky woohoo pizza man persona, is his internal conflict with his demon side. Sure, Dante does enjoy being strong and fighting, but at the same time, he views his demonic blood as an overall negative, and feels that being half demon means he can never truly be human. This internal conflict is most prevalent in DMC3, and it's reflected in the name he chooses for his shop, Devil May Cry, which Dante doesn't have in this anime. I mean, I guess he doesn't have to have Devil May Cry by the end of the first season. Maybe the show is building up to end with that. But there's still another way to represent this part of Dante's character, his theme music. Devils Never Cry from DMC3 and Subhuman from DMC5 both tackle this aspect of Dante's character, and they gave him Devil Trigger. This is worse than giving this version of Vergil Bury the Light, for God's sake. It's not even his theme song. It's this that convinces me that Adi Shankar does not know a thing about Devil May Cry. The characters' themes in the games are such a massive part of their characters in each game. Subhuman doesn't fit DMC3 Dante, Crimson Cloud doesn't fit anybody but V, Devil Trigger doesn't fit DMC4 Nero, and so on and so forth. So for this version of Dante, who is nothing like DMC5 Nero, to be given this song just screams willful ignorance or blatant disrespect to the source material. Sure, this anime takes place in a new universe, but if you want me to believe that and accept it as such, you can't do something like misuse music from the main series in an attempt to get people to point at their TV screens and be like, ah, I get that reference, just so you can pretend that this anime has a place to exist within the Devil May Cry IP. But I digress. Dante's design is also extremely lackluster. Each Dante design clearly reflects his character. 3's mop head hair and open jacket with no shirt underneath tells me he's young, a bit immature and easygoing. 4's design tells me he's matured but still retains his more wacky and flamboyant personality. And 5's design tells me that Dante is in a bit of a rough spot in his life. He's not necessarily taking care of himself that well, he looks more rugged and worn down because he is. Anime Dante's design just tells me that this character is supposed to be Dante. Sure, it hits the right marks for a Dante design, but it's lazy and tells me nothing about the character itself. TLDR, this Dante isn't Dante to me. I'll accept reboot Dante before this Dante. Anime Dante isn't funny, he isn't cool, and most importantly, he doesn't have an ounce of style in his veins. There's a lot more I could talk about, but I don't want to talk about this anime for longer than I'm forcing myself to, and we still have the calamity that is Mary Arkham to go over. I don't think I can willingly call whoever this character is lady, because she just isn't. Mary Arkham is my biggest problem with this anime. Not only is she insufferable, but she also takes up more screen time than any other character in this anime, including Dante. So the entire anime is insufferable, and it is purely because of her. First of all, I'm pretty sure 80% of her lines either include some version of the word fuck, or what I can only describe as a slur made specifically for Dante.
Happen to be walking around with half the key to fucking hell on your neck? This dumb fuck devil spawn is go see what that Roger fucking rabbit rejects, but you couldn't make up something that fucking stupid. So maybe he is just another pit beast after all.
She's so overly edgy for absolutely no reason. Lady in DMC3 is extremely hostile towards Dante, but you can also tell that she's on some sort of mission and taken over by her drive to complete it. But Mary is just an absolute detriment to whatever scene she's in. The funny thing is, she actually retains an extremely similar backstory to DMC3 Lady. Hell, it almost tricked me into liking her, but then I realized that the only reason I almost came around to her character is because her backstory is told in the episode where there is almost zero dialogue for the entire runtime. As soon as she opens her mouth again, I'm having an absolutely terrible time. Another thing that really bothers me about Mary is how strong she is in the show. Well, not necessarily how strong she is, but how her strength is portrayed. There is absolutely zero way Mary should be giving Dante as much trouble as she does, even at his most inexperienced. This balance is done perfectly in DMC3. The blueprint is right there. In the game, it's extremely clear that Dante is on an entirely different level compared to Lady, but at the same time, she never looks weak and pitiful. She's not an even match for the likes of Dante or Vergil, she shouldn't be, but she can hold her own against demons that should be stronger than her. Hell, in DMC5, Dante just straight up calls Lady one of the strongest, most badass women in the world alongside Trish, an actual demon.
O king of stench and filth. I'm impressed. Those are two of the most badass women in the world. And I only know one other guy who can defeat them.
Mary is written to act tough and be tough, but it just comes off as if the writers were not confident in writing her or didn't know exactly how to portray that in any other way, so they made her swear in a way that would surprise a sailor. Mary Arkham is one of the worst characters from anything I've consumed in recent memory. She's an actual detriment to the show. Even having her go by the name Mary Arkham here is just blatant disrespect or willful ignorance to the source material. I'm willing to bet it's both. I would say that I have hope that these characters will be fixed or at least slightly altered in the new season, but I honestly don't. Considering how quick news for season 2 has been dropping, I can only assume that the script has been done for a while. If you like this anime, power to you. You're free to do whatever you want, like whatever you want. In my opinion, should have no impact on yours. But to me, the only good thing to come out of this anime's release is that it got more people to play the games and experience these characters the way they should be. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. That's it for this one.
Late and I'm feeling so cool. Yeah, come and get a taste of the hip soul food. Spice up the animal and neo haiku. While soul goes to school, way slash kung fu.